Good afternoon. We are live for Portugal. First of all, would like to know how is the squad feeling for this game with Manchester United? Are you feeling calm? A second question has to do with the issue that you might have someone that will be their first in this season. What do you think? Well, good afternoon to you all. Now that I think the team is great, is really, really strong, wanting to win. And I feel that we will be doing a great job, we'll have a great performance in order to provide a winning. And of course, playing this competition is something that I really want to do. I really want to play in the Europa League, and I hope I can do it in the very best possible way to help the team. Yes? Yes, it will. You were asking if it was my first time. Yes, it was my first time in the Europa League. And of course, I think this is I'll try to do the very best for the team. Good afternoon, and now once again for Sport TV Plus, how has it worked for you, this experience of being one of the team's captain right in your second season at FC Porto? Well, now I feel a great pride being second captain for the club. And of course, thanks to the trust of our head coach, and I've had all his support from the very beginning, and I want to do the very, very most in order to provide the best for the team. Good afternoon, Varela. This is the representative from RTP. Well, all the squad is really willing to show that the defeat in Norway was just an accident. Is that so? The gentleman is saying, the player is asking to repeat. Does it mean that you really want to show to the members, the associates of FC Porto, that the defeat in Norway was just an accident? Well, of course, we want to win. We have done everything in order to win, but the first game didn't have the best outcome, and tomorrow we'll have a possibility. We are going to have this clash with a huge team. So, António Reis for SIC, what did you think about Manchester United, this particular squad? It's a huge club, it's a huge football club, and of course, it's a historic opponent. You know, it's one of the big leaders in football and sport, and I'm sure that they really want to win. But of course, we are going to do everything that we can in order to be able to win this match. Good afternoon, António José Leite for CNN Portugal. What is the strongest feature of FC Porto, and that FC Porto can, in fact, explore in this game against Manchester United? So, do you need the support from your head coach to answer this? No, of course. We have a great squad, and we have amazing players, and of course, I'm not going to tell you a lot, but well, that's it. I can't say much more. Well, from Record, this week it was mentioned the possibility that Varela would be renewing the contract with FC Porto, considering that he was asked, being one of the captains of this team. Do you feel that they have increased, in fact, your value, and do you actually want to renew your contract with FC Porto? Well, I don't want to talk about this. Well, of course, I will have people that will be dealing with this issue, I am just focused on the match tomorrow. That's it. I'm just focused on the match tomorrow. Once the questions for Alan Varela, we are now going to move on to the questions for the head coach, Mr. Vitor Bruno. We are waiting just for the microphone. Looking at what has happened in the last two games, what is it possible to absorb? What is it possible to absorb that you can apply this Thursday against Manchester United? And also the present assessment of the Red Devils, and what reaction do we expect from their visit here to this stadium? Well, you're talking about Norway and Europa. Well, each game has its specificities. It's very difficult to associate games. We have totally different opponents that provide us with different types of problems, different types of challenges. We just have to follow our structure. In Norway, we made some mistakes that we were not allowed to make. We have corrected a lot in the game with Europa. For instance, regarding, the offensive, we have really worked hard on that. And now with Manchester, for the game with Manchester, we have prepared the game, we have analyzed what we did wrong against Europa, and tomorrow we will also be keeping a very close look at what is happening during the game. It's very, very difficult because these are very, very high-level, complex games. And of course, these are games where very often we solve one problem, but once we solve one problem, there's another problem that is just happening because it's very, very intense. Not only the physical component, but we also don't have a lot of time to make decisions. So it's going to be a very high demanding game. I've had a lot of people that saying that they have a rope around their necks, but no, we are just looking for our objective, that is to reach the next stage. And so we will have a chance tomorrow to be able to qualify for the playoffs, and then we will move on. Once again, live for Sport TV. Is it a mistake to look at the present time of Manchester United and to see that it might be a more accessible game as you are facing one of the most relevant clubs in the world? Well, that would be a huge mistake. We're talking about world players. We're talking about excellent players. If you want to tell a different story, you are telling a story that does not correspond to the truth. And so we have to analyze the Manchester United, their strong aspects, the threats that we are going to face. Of course, that any club has specificities, but it's a club. And if you rewind the tape, 2-3 minutes ago, we were discussing something, and Manchester City is probably now one of the best team in the world, and some things are not lost. There are specific times. There was the Tottenham, and what happened to Tottenham. This does not explain the reality of the game, or the game follows a path that does not really represent the true value of Manchester. So tomorrow we have to be on our toes. We have to be very, very much alert with a lot of energy. It's going to be very hard, but we really want to win. Good afternoon, now live for RTP. Anyhow, Manchester United is number 13 in the English league. In Europe, it's still very far from their position in recent years. So your goal is the victory, 3 points, or do you think that a draw would be okay? No, we don't. No draws. We always play to win. No draws in this house. We always want to win. We want to win. Manchester is number 13, but at the end, let's see how things will turn out. I think yesterday Ten Hag was saying very clearly that every year he always has titles at the end of the year. So he has to associate his sports performance with the titles that he has obtained. We're talking about amazing, outstanding players. Maybe that they are not experiencing one of the best moments, and I'm referring to the previous game, but we have to pay a lot of attention to make sure that we know where the main danger is coming from, and we have to achieve the right state of mind to continue with this game. In this house, we only think about winning. Good afternoon, Paul George Duarte, CMTV. 2 questions. Probably you remember I've asked you recently if you have found your base team for FC Porto. My question is, what is the relevance, especially in key games, to have the best team in the field? What are the key games? Well, this one? Well, because it's a next. All games are relevant right here at FC Porto. All games are absolutely key. I'm sure that you are aware of what was written. Would you like to comment? Do you think it was an isolated act? What would you like to say to those people or that person that wrote those things? I don't want to tell anything. I know, I'm sorry, I can't say anything. I can say that, for instance, as far as I know, there were more walls that included me than other walls that included the president. And maybe the president will feel that he has less walls that were where things were written than myself. But we always have to move forward. We have to do what we want to do. I only know someone that only Michael Jackson was famous for walking backwards. I'm terrible at dancing. I'm a much better coach than I am a dancer or a singer. And so I always have to look ahead. I want to win games. I want to make FC Porto a winner. At the end of the day, we have to find out what we could have done better. And then it is what it is. Of course, we have Glovo that delivers, meals to your home that do things quicker. And also for CNN, again, live, are you aware that this sentence you've mentioned Michael Jackson will go down in history? But it's not because of my dancing. But I don't want to stress this again, but that written sentence said, well, that the Super Dragons are lying. Who wants to harm Porto with those writings on the walls? I'm sorry, I cannot answer that. If someone had that intention, they will have to assume responsibility, and are the ones who will have to answer for what they have written in the walls of the stadium. Now, going backwards, when you were not the coach, I remember Manchester United in 2004, that was a glory year for Porto, as well as 2009. At the time, did you want to be the head coach, the place where you are today, especially in a game that involves all the preparation that is associated with this game? Do you also have space for the feelings in a game such as this one? Maybe it's not like the Champions League, but it's also a very competitive league, Europa League. Well, I have to resource to my memories, and this is not very easy. Let's go back, 2004. I was at my final year in college, and I was playing football at the same time. Because I was playing football, of course, I could think that I could become someone in this area, because other than just a player. So I was already considering becoming coach. And as far as what I've heard from what takes place backstage, to understand what has always happened in backstage is something that has always been very relevant for me. It was my first experience in 2009 with Augusto Inácio in a club called Naval. At the time, I did not know what my future was. I was already a coach, but I had no perspective of being here. This was not something that was prepared. Things happened because they had to happen. Of course, I'm very, very happy. I'm very, very proud to be here, but my greatest pride is when I see that my players do what I request from them. Sometimes they might not be perfect, but for me, something is essential, which is their commitment, their will to do things well, to respond to to things that could be even improved, to have this type of addiction, this type of perspective, to always be willing to do more and more. And in this sport, this is what we need to do. Tomorrow's game is one more time to write FC Porto's name in Europe. Another time, another opportunity to show a club that is so strong. And we've shown this. Two questions. In Norway, you've mentioned the lack of aggressivity for one of the reasons for the final result. So do you believe, did you find an explanation for this lack of aggressivity? And do you believe that increase in being more aggressive will be key for the success tomorrow? Well, not all games are like that. And I'm sure that he can tell you, 2 days after the game in Norway, when I was discussing with my players, there's a very strong indicator that has to do with the number of foul plays. And so we have realized where there were some games that we succeeded and others we were not. And we see that some of them succeed and other ones don't. One example is, for instance, Santa Clara. Santa Clara has a huge number that took place in the Azores. And this is always a very strong example. So the games are always the result of small duels. The more of these duels we win, the closer we are. And so, just like in Alvalade, it's all part of this. And it must be seen with us as a very, very strong weapon that we must always be considering. And we can't deny this. So, you've mentioned here some trouble, that it might be a troubled time for Manchester United. Do you think it's an added danger or an advantage? Are you talking for us or Manchester United? For FC Porto? No, quite on the other hand. Well, if someone has its pride that it's hurting, is FC Porto, not Manchester. If we ended now, we would be out. So we were the ones who made a mistake, and now we are the ones who have to follow this path, to be very demanding, to attack the game, to realize the quality of the players from Manchester United, and always be very, very suspicious. Never take something for granted. We are going to pay a lot of attention. We will not be taking anything for granted, and we really, really want to follow our path. Maybe we might have to make some adjustments, but without changing what we have been pursuing once we've started working here. What was it like to prepare this game? Because this is the most relevant game for FC Porto in the Europa League. It's probably the most relevant game, the one that gets more attention from the media. So considering that you have new players in your team, Samu, for instance, Francisco Moura, Zé Pedro, that is not that young, but he's not used to these type of games, with opponents such as Manchester United. What was it like to prepare this game, especially younger players? There was no special care. We did what we always do. We analyzed the last game, Aroca. At the same time, we have tried to learn from Aroca the transfer in specific times of the game. We have analyzed Manchester. We saw the videos. We have trained exactly like we always do. We do not change our daily work according to A, B, or C different opponents. We feel the greatest respect with all our opponents. You have, for instance, Santa Clara, Sporting, Manchester United. Any opponent, will look at them in a detailed way to try and understand where we can improve. And there's a lot of room for improvement. You have Sabu, Moura, Yohan, you have all And all this leads to a whole new set of routines. So when we play every 3 days, it's even more difficult because we don't have a lot of time to train these things. So we try to make the most of every little bit of the training process so that the players will circulate, will get to know each other, so that everything will be very natural, very spontaneous, sometimes just looking at each other. When we have teams that have been playing together for 2, 3 or 4 years, sometimes they can even play with their eyes closed.
Charlotte Harper from The Athletic, a question in English. Given their poor recent form, is this...
Wait. Senão não consigo perceber. Yes, again, please.
Given Manchester United's poor recent form, is this the best time to play them for FC Porto?
Not at all. Exactly the opposite. We always see them as a threat, not as a good point to take them on. We have to be just ourselves and look at them the way we have to look at them. With respect, a lot of respect, with a lot of individuals, as a team also performing not, I know what you mean, talking about their last match, but we must see the whole, not the last one.
And as a coach, Erik Ten Hag is under a lot of scrutiny.
I'm also.
Given the...
Everyone is.
Do you have sympathy for him in his position?
I don't know him. I haven't met him yet. But I'd love to, really, because there's a coach in Portugal called Carvalhal. Now he's in Braga, and he worked in the Premier League and in Championship, I think. Mm-hmm. And he also says at the end of the match, they go together, drink a cup of wine. If Ten Hag wants, tomorrow the dressing room is open for him.
What would
a lot of respect. It's our life. It's our life. Our life. Mine also. I don't know if you're if you know all the news here in Portugal, but once you lose one match, you're almost dead.
Almost.
Almost. I hope almost. Always have a second life, it's good.
Obrigada.
Obrigado.
Last question, please.
Hello, Vitor. Something I wanted to ask you is Manchester United's captain, Bruno Fernandes. He's been under a lot of criticism, obviously very well known here in Portugal. What do you make of him as a player?
An international player is always a quality player. Besides that, he also played in Sporting. So he will, for sure, he will want to make a great performance tomorrow. The way he was sent off the last match, I don't think it was not reasonable at all. He's a very good player, very, very good player. He must be very aware, control him, not let him do the way he likes to play, and be always ready to control his style of playing. I mean, the way he passes the ball, the way he puts something in the face of the goal, the way he can dribble, he can shoot. We cannot give him space.
Obrigada.
Ok, muito obrigado.
Obrigado.
Boa tarde.